list is Senator Grove. We have SB 14, file number 23. Please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here today to present SB 1414 regarding the solicitation and actual purchase of children for sex. Members, as you know, I introduced Senate Bill 1414 with the intent of making solicitation or purchase of minors a prison felony. However, Senate Public Safety Committee forced amendments without my consent and watered down SB 1414 by making it a wobbler, which can still be reduced to a misdemeanor. To be clear, I believe that adults who attempt to or actually buy children for sex in the state of California should go to prison on a felony charge. Hostile amendments reduced the punishment to a wobbler for those who would purchase sex from kids that are ages 15 and under, excluding 16 and 17-year-olds even from the wobbler protections. As a point of clarification, a wobbler can be charged as a jail felony or reduced to a misdemeanor. Please bear in mind that if we don't have stricter punishments and then for the negotiation stage during the solicitation or the purchase, the next opportunity we have to levy stronger penalties is when the act is being completed. I've combed through hundreds of text messages from our law enforcement partners on solicitation of minors, and I feel that I can read this one or partial ones of this one in public. At least it's the least egregious one that I've read. A 30-something-year-old medical student who wants to have a BB, which is bareback, BF, which is butt, and I'm not going to say the last word, with a 17-year-old girl and wants proof, photographic evidence that he is sloppy seconds. There's more to this negotiation with the engagement of the price and everything, that the language is too inappropriate to read in the public. But some members think this information that's engaged in is appropriate for minors. These exchanges are graphic, sickening, and evil, and the last step before the child is sexually exploited by an adult. Recently, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department performed a sting operation. One adult man showed up to the hotel expecting to meet a 10-year-old child. He had straps in his pocket to tie the child down, child-sized lingerie, sex toys, and lubrication. Again, I'd like to reiterate that we have to attempt to stop these perpetrators before they actually complete the act to devastate a child's life forever. It's unbelievable that we fight in this building to protect minors up to the age of 21 from tobacco use, vaping, alcohol, and even tanning beds, but some members don't want to include protections for all minors. Individuals who try to buy sex from kids deserve to go to prison. They deserve to sit there and think about what they've done and hopefully, at minimum, keep them away from the children whose lives they seek to destroy. The reality is that even if we reclassify as a felony, the defendant is still eligible for probation, and the majority of sex offenders are not serving their full prison sentences as is. KCRA right here in Sacramento investigates, put in a records request for the California Department of Corrections in 2022. 246 inmates were in prison for human trafficking, pimping, or pandering, and were released. All of those inmates, out of all of them, the 246, only 2 that were charged of trafficking of minors served their full sentence. Only 2. When talking about the very serious, very prevalent issue of adults purchasing sex for children, I wish that we could focus less on protecting the criminals and more on the victims. It should not be this hard. It should not be this political. Crafting good policy that protects children should be a slam dunk for both sides. This committee, along with Senator Wahab, proposed to only include 16 and 17-year-old children in a wobbler provision if they can prove they are a victim of human trafficking. This requirement is utterly ridiculous. It says they have to be bought, sold, trafficked, and then to get prove they're trafficked, and then go back to the purchaser who initiated this whole negotiation process and started this process. My bill language puts the blame squarely on the buyer, while the proposed committee amendments put the burden of proof squarely on the child victim, who would have proof that she was trafficked sexually and assaulted and re-victimized again. Additionally, this committee has failed to impose mandatory 2-day minimum jail sentences as a misdemeanor provision under the wobbler, and rich men can buy their way out of the punishment of this crime, paying a fine instead of serving time of the misdemeanor.
The sanctity of a child in California should be put first. A child's life is priceless. We're talking about paying to destroy a child's life. A society that won't protect their children is no society at all. I respectfully ask that you restore my bill language with my amendments, making a prison felony to purchase all minors for sex. With me here to testify and support, Dr. Stephanie Powell, an expert in the field of human trafficking, a 30-year veteran with the Los Angeles Police Department Human Trafficking Division, and Brianna Mosley, a lived experience expert and a survivor and advocate.
Thank you. You have 4 minutes between yourselves to make a presentation. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Stephanie Powell. I have worked in the area of human trafficking for over 15 years through the lens of law enforcement as a 30-year veteran of LAPD, as well as a direct service provider. I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, therefore I know the community, so when I see them, I see me. The children that we speak of today are disproportionately black and brown. They are thrust onto prostitution tracks because of systemic breakdowns in the juvenile justice and education system, which also often results in poverty, coupled with a society that either does not see them as enough or doesn't see them at all. Today, this system has an opportunity to right itself. Stand by them by bringing this bill to its original intent. Buying a minor of any age should be a felony. The same population you are trying to protect, you are throwing in danger. Everyone knows that the younger you are on the streets, the more money that you are worth, the more money they are worth. Making the decision to reinstate 16 and 17-year-olds into this bill is a true protective measure. This should be done without them having to prove that they are victims of human trafficking. By their age alone, it proves that. Why re-victimize them through testimony when they often don't even self-identify? What you're doing is personifying adultification theory, treating 16 and 17-year-old children of color as though they're adults. You see, this is not about romance, this is about victimization and a system that will allow victimization in the written form of the law. Please support SB 1414, return it to its original intention, hold sex buyers accountable. Don't adultify children of color, it is bias.
My name is Brianna Mosley and I'm from Sacramento County. I'm now 30 years old, but I was trafficked in the ages of 13 and 17. I want to ask you a question. At what age did my childhood, my innocence, become less important? Was it at 4 when I was raped by family? At 13 when I was kidnapped for the first time and they tried to sell me to grown men? At 14 when I was kidnapped for the second time, locked in a room for several days, and again, grown men purchased me and raped me. You may think, wow, that's a lot for a child to endure, and you are correct. Little did I know then that my life would get much worse around the age of 16. When a trafficker befriended me and began selling me, yes, selling me, I get into crime. My mom looked tirelessly for me on several occasions. I recall these buyers saying they saw my missing posting flyers up down the street from where I was being sold. Did that stop them? No. At 16, I had another buyer ask me how old I was. When I answered, he then asked me if I could pretend to be younger. If I had any friends that were maybe 12. I responded no, and he then proceeded to purchase me for sex and had me pretend to be 12. I've heard the statement that some teens need this to survive, but I ask why. And if that's true, and only if that's true, we need to fix those issues and not say that they are less valuable, that they deserve to be raped by grown men, or that they don't deserve to be a child. I can tell you firsthand, me along with every other teen that I was out there with, and that I've worked with, had a trafficker that often beat them, belittled them, and forced them to sell themselves for money. At 30 years old, I am still healing from the torture I endured, both physically and mentally. I speak for all my fellow survivors, victims, and even some of your children, that we are valuable, that we deserve to have our childhood and not have it stolen by grown men. We have to hold them accountable, and as I've said before, without a buyer, we have no victims. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support, please come forward.
Amy Bailey on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association.
Hold on a second.
Amy Bailey in support of this bill on behalf of California District Attorneys Association.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Karen Lang on behalf of the Kern County Board of Supervisors and the Tulare County Board of Supervisors in support, and thank the witness for being here.
Odessa Perkins with Empowerment Jess Perkins Foundation, IA At-Risk Youth and Human Trafficking Victims and Survivors. I support SB 1414 in Senator Groves' original version.
My name is Margarita Calamayer, and today I stand as one, but I come in the name of thousands that have been abused. Please stop the problem that is causing people's lives. I support Shannon Grove in this SB 1414. If it wasn't for her, I would not be alive today. We need people like me that can help us overcome the monsters that exist in this world, taking our childhood away from us.
Thank you.
Dylan Lasowski with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department in support.
Courtney Martin for the Sacramento District Attorney's Office. I support the bill as originally proposed by Senator Grove.
Molly Sheehan of the California Catholic Conference in support of the bill. Thank you.
Pastor Brandon Campbell, Northern California Director for California Baptist for Biblical Values, in support of Shannon Grove's original version.
Steve Campbell, concerned parent, in support of this bill and Senator Grove's original.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Association of the California State Sheriff's Association.
Chair and members, Daniel Sanchez on behalf of the Chief Probation Officers of California in strong support.
I'm Tamara Look, I'm a 16-year-old, and I support the original bill. I'm Rayleigh Look, I'm 17, and I support the original SB 1414.
I'm shown with the previous law enforcement associations mentioned earlier today in support of the original bill, and also on behalf of Placer County District Attorney Morgan Geyer and Crime Victims Alliance in support of the original bill.
Good afternoon, Dr. Angela Look from Kern County, supporting the bill in its original writing by Senator Grove.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Willie DeLeon from the Riverside Sheriff's Office in support, and also on behalf of Sheriff Chad Bianco.
Marjorie Saylor, Board Chair of the Survivor Living Network of San Diego and survivor of human sex trafficking, in full support of Senator Grove's original version of the bill.
My name is Janet Jett, and I'm from Oakland, and I am with Love Never Fails, and I support this bill in the original intent that Senator Grove had.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Quiros, and I am a survivor leader, and I was also trafficked at 16 years old. And I'm also the co-founder of an organization called Redemption House of the Bay Area. I also sit on the board of directors for Love Never Fails, the sponsoring party, and we support this bill in its original form. Thank you.
My name is Helen Taylor, Vice President of the anti-trafficking organization Exodus Crime. On behalf of the thousands of teenagers trafficked here in California, we fully support Senator Grove's original bill. These forced amendments require 16 and 17-year-olds to prove that they're victims of trafficking when under the federal TDPA, anyone under 18 is automatically classified as a victim of trafficking. So these amendments are ignorant at best and harmful at worst, and we won't stay quiet about this.
Olivia Burnett on behalf of the anti-trafficking organization Exodus Cry and Mother, and I'm in full support of the bill in its original form in Senator Grove. We know that buyers know exactly what they're doing. Statistically, they're white men that earn over $100,000. They don't deserve to be protected.
Hello there. My name is Renee Wilson. I represent Drive for Impact, and I fully support SB 1414.
My name is Annabelle Velasquez. I'm with the Empower and Resilience Project, and I'm a survivor, and I am in support of SB 1414.
Hi, my name is Paula Gardner. I'm here on behalf of Survivor Wade for my niece, and I'm also a survivor, and I'm here for supporting Sheriff Grove and SB 1414.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Hansen, and I'm here with Victim Advocate Angels, and I am in support. My sister was also a victim.
My name is Ken Burns. I'm the driver of Impact, and we're in support of it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leandra Leff on behalf of the California Family Council. We are in support.
Hello, my name is Detective Jason Collins with Sacramento Police Department's Human Trafficking Unit. This version of the bill is ineffective, and I support Senator Grove's original bill.
Christine Diaz, board member of Empowerment Desperate Foundation, in support of SB 1414.
Nicole Wortleman on behalf of San Bernardino County. Rachel West with the Empowerment Resilience Project and one support.
Chair members, Jonathan Feldman, California Police Chiefs Association.
Thank you. Seeing no others in support, we have opposition. Opposition is carried. We have 4 minutes for your panel.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Isabella Borgeson, and I'm campaign manager at the Elevator Center for Human Rights, where we work to advance racial and economic justice to ensure dignity and opportunity for people with low income as well as people of color. I want to acknowledge the survivors here today, and name that we all have the shared goal of protecting children from harm. Unfortunately, today, EDC must strongly oppose Senate Bill 1414 for the reasons I will state. We stand against any punitive measure that perpetuates systemic injustices, and we emphasize instead the need for community-based solutions. We strongly support investments in victim services and programs to provide housing and other alternatives that help people escape trafficking. We are concerned that the harsher penalties contained in this bill will disproportionately impact marginalized communities, particularly Black and brown individuals who already bear the brunt of systemic biases within our criminal justice system. Under current California law, defendants could face years or even decades in prison for sexual violence committed against a minor, not just 6 months in jail as Senator Grove and prosecutors have previously claimed. Furthermore, the approach outlined in SB 1414 diverts resources from vital programs and services aimed at supporting survivors of human trafficking and sexual exploitation, opting instead to increase funding for lengthy jail terms. Our research has shown that punitive measures such as lengthy incarceration and registries do little to prevent crime or protect communities. Instead, they perpetuate cycles of incarceration, exacerbating the very problems they are meant to address. Rather than investing in punitive measures, we should be investing in community-based solutions that address the underlying issues driving exploitation. We should instead support survivors in healing and rebuilding their lives with access to housing and funding for service providers. Given this, we respectfully urge you to oppose SB 1414. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes more.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the Assembly's Public Safety Committee. My name is Kelly Walters. I'm a former defense attorney and civil rights litigator. Today I'm representing legal services for prisoners with children, and I'm here to express our opposition to Senate Bill 1414, which proposes significant changes to the penalties for soliciting a minor. As an organization dedicated to building public awareness and stopping bias and policing the courts and the prison system, we do feel this bill is deeply flawed and contradicts our core values and principles. We are sympathetic to the intention of this bill and share the goal of protecting minors from exploitation and abuse. We believe that SB 1414 takes an overly punitive approach that fails to address the root causes of these issues and will not effectively stop sexual violence. We are particularly concerned that the harsher penalties proposed in this bill will disproportionately impact marginalized communities, especially members of the LGBTQ community, who already suffer from systematic biases within the criminal justice system, particularly when it comes to sexually based offenses. Studies have shown that LGBTQ people, particularly gay and transgendered individuals, are more likely to be charged with sex offenses compared to their heterosexual counterparts. For instance, LGBTQ individuals are 9 times more likely to be charged with sodomy. Measures like SB 1414 lead to higher rates of incarceration, longer sentences, and increased difficulties in finding housing and employment. nearly 65% of LGBTQ individuals on these registries reported being incarcerated compared to 53% of their heterosexual counterparts, with many receiving sentences of 25 years or more. Investing in community-based solutions can help break these cycles by providing essential support and resources to those at risk and those who have suffered exploitation. The shift in approach holds the potential for positive change and brighter future for these individuals, a shift that has not happened with punitive measures.
Thank you. Thank you. Others in opposition, please come forward.
Marco George on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association. We're in opposition, I'm here for technical assistance.
Thank you.
Dan Gordon on behalf of Smart Justice California and Initiate Justice in respectful opposition.
Shivani Nishar, Baker Center in respectful opposition. I'm also registering opposition on behalf of Just Advocate, California Innocence Coalition, Uncommon Law, CURB, and Felony Murder Elimination Project.
Here in San Francisco Public Defender's Office, respectful opposition.
Duke Cody on behalf of ACLU California Action, respectful opposition. Thank you.
Jim Berg, Friends Committee on Legislation in California, opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other individuals testifying in support or opposition. Questions or comments from committee members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the opposition, talk about victim services to support the victims. What kind of examples do we have?
I'm happy to follow up with examples of community-based organizations, and many of whom I'm sure are in the room today, who provide services to survivors. The Elevator Center for Human Rights works with thousands of currently incarcerated people across California, including their loved ones, many of whom identify as survivors themselves. With reentry services, supporting them in finding stable employment. We believe that investing in individuals' stability and being able to support them holistically in their journey home as they come home.
So are we talking individuals as in victims or the person that actually committed the crime?
I would attest to say that often there's not such a binary between that many currently incarcerated
there actually is. There's a crime and a victim, and there's the person that actually did it. So are you saying that you're providing services for the victim or the person that committed the crime?
I'm saying that we're providing services, us along with many other organizations across California, many of whom are here today, provide services to support survivors, regardless of whether or not they've been incarcerated or criminalized for actions that they've taken.
Okay, and you also mentioned research. You guys have research. Who did the research and when was it done?
I actually did want to comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you move the mic closer?
Sure can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I previously worked in several shelters that were devoted specifically to survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse. And frankly, I originally took a very similar approach, and I thought punitive measures would be the way to go. And I've since, after reading multiple research things and experiencing it myself with my particular clients at the time, realized that all the punitive measures that we've taken over the many, many years haven't really done anything. And so it's time to try something new.
So you're saying that your victims did not feel safe when the person that committed the crime was in prison or in jail or away from them?
I would say that generally, no, they didn't.
Because my experience as a domestic violence detective and as a crimes against children detective was the abuser or the person that committed the crime, when they were put away, my victims felt very safe. And they were scared when they got out. And it totally contradicts what you're saying right now. So I don't believe that. Senator, go ahead. You have a question.
I just want to bring back the attention to the dais that my bill addresses the purchaser that buys a minor child for sex. It has nothing to do with domestic violence. And it doesn't address the issues that I realize we're not doing wraparound services and all this. I'm trying to stem the demand by going after the buyers. And the opposition from the public defender's side have also come into this building several times under a piece of legislation to increase the age of individuals for minors that can't think for themselves because their brains haven't developed to the age of 26, but they're supporting something that would make 16 and 17-year-olds ability to make decisions that are well beyond their reach as well.
And just one last thing, Mr. Chairman. I have found that for the most part, the victims are usually the ones that are left out. They're the ones that don't get a voice up here. And I think that is what needs to be changed. I think what it needs to go back to is getting the person that made that decision to commit that crime, to do that terrible act, needs to be put away.
Mr. Wackey.
Yes, thank you. Let me set a little context here and remind everybody who's listening that first-time offenders have no sex registry, and their penalty is anywhere from 2 days to 1 year of custody. 2 days. That's time served usually for a booking, because our jails are so overcrowded. That's the penalty now. We're not contesting that, right? That's how it is. This bill, second time offense. And we have people defending this. I find it to be very difficult to swallow, and I think it's misguided, misdirected, however you want to put it, sympathy. We have the opposition who have said that they're worried about years of injustice suffered resulting from custody. How about the lifelong injury suffered by victims? That never goes away, ever. Where's the balance there, folks? Overly punitive? That's insulting the victims. This is overly punitive. What about the act? How do you characterize that? How do you just dismiss it? I find it to be very, very hurtful that our values have become so blurred and so disconnected. It just hurts me to know that this bill is controversial. It is really, really hard for me to digest. And if I could, Chair, if I could ask the Sacramento Deputy DA, Courtney Martin, to address how this committee's amendment will protect 16 and 17-year-old victims.
Sure.
This bill will not protect 16 and 17-year-old victims. Under the amendment that requires 16 and 17-year-old victims to prove that they were victims of sex trafficking at the time that they were also solicited for sex by a buyer, that puts a tremendous burden on these victims to prove that they were victimized not just by the solicitor, the buyer, but victimized in a second way by the trafficker. It doubles, it triples, it quadruples the amount of evidence that has to be put on by that minor at trial, the amount of testimony that that minor has to give. It puts a tremendous burden on that minor, and it really is unprecedented in the law. I can't think of any other type of law where we put that burden on a victim to show that they were the victim of not one but 2 crimes in order to be looked at as a victim. If you're the victim of someone soliciting you for sex as a minor, that should be it.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move Senator Grove's submitted author amendments. I believe the amendments have been passed out and been handed out to all the members and committee members. The amendments would restore SB 1414 to its original form, which would make a solicitation of purchase of sex with all minors, including 16 and 17-year-olds, a felony with prison time, a fine not to exceed $25,000, and sex offender registry on second and subsequent offenses.
And I probably second the motion.
So this is a substitute motion that you're asking for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Substitute motions require a majority of those present voting before we get to the actual motion to pass as amended with Ms. Rowe's original amendments, correct? That's what you want, your original amendments, correct? That's what you're looking for, correct?
So yes, I'd like the bill passed with my original amendments.
Okay, so Mr. Alanis has offered, he wants to do a substitute motion. It has been seconded by Mr. Lackey, so we will take the substitute motion first in order to present the question before the body to pass this bill, or for the motion to be to pass as amended with your amendments.
So that's one of the things that we discussed, and I'm going to clarify.
No, we have a motion.
So the substitute substitute motion
We
is
have a motion and a second
for the substitute
to
motion.
hear Ms. Grove's bill as was first introduced in the Senate before it was amended. We have a motion and a second.
For the substitute motion, it requires those of majority and present and voting in order to take the second question before the body.
Yes, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Alvarez is asking for an aye. Mr. McCarty is asking for a no. On the substitute motion, McCarty.
No.
McCarty, no. Alanis?
Aye.
Alanis, aye. Lackey?
Aye.
Lackey, aye. Wynn? Wynn not voting. Reyes? Ting? Wilson? Zaber? Zaber, no.
Okay, we'll go
Substitute
back to
motion
the
fails.
main bill before us. I support your bill. And I think that you've done a lot of work bringing more accountability to the sex trade. Last year, you bravely stood up and went after the traffickers. And I think you asked the key question over the winter. What about people in the supply and demand market who are buying this craft, this commodity, which isn't a commodity, it's a person, a human being, youth. And this is an issue that we all hear about. It's personal to many of us who have young people in our families. So I applaud you for bringing this issue forward. I support your bill, and I'm here today to support your bill and make it stronger. This is a business where you don't always get everything you want. It's not black and white, anytime it's gray in the middle. So I know that you wanted to kind of litigate what you had the opportunity to pursue in the Senate. That's not on the table. As the rules, you know, we can't go and change that, as, you know, inside baseball jailbreak terms. But the last 24 hours, you, the minority leader, myself, the Senate Public Safety Chair, and the President Pro Tem looked at some options, and we acknowledged that one of the flaws that came out of the Senate is that we have more accountability for people buying a minor under 15 as a sexual commodity. We don't have exactly what we wanted, 15 and under. 15 and under. We have more accountability for people buying individuals 15 and under for sex via solicitation. We don't have adequate, in my view, for 16 and 17. And, you know, in my view, like I've been saying, a minor's a minor. But I think there was some fair discussion in the prior House as far as people being swept up who were late teens, you know, a little over, and then close to the 16 and 17. So we hear you that we didn't do enough for the 16 and 17. So we would like to propose that we address the 16 and 17-year-olds with one additional clause to the existing bill that's presented here before that states that 16 and 17-year-olds, if the solicited minor is under 16 at the age of the time of offense, if the person solicited was under the age of 18 at the time of the offense and the victim was a victim of human trafficking. And our perception of this, and I'm not a prosecutor, and I respect the position of our representative from the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office, the individual doesn't have to prove it, it's the prosecution. If they want to charge this person with this new crime, with this up to a felony on the first offense, they can. They can. They can show in the prosecution that the victim, 16 or 17, was a victim of human trafficking. If they want to just utilize the existing law, there's two statutes on the book. They can charge that person with a misdemeanor under current law as well. So with this, we think that we answer your question that addresses what happens when people are 16, 17. They're still minors, but they weren't in the version that you got passed out of the Senate. While not perfect in your eyes, we view that this furthers the questions about having more accountability for people trying to purchase minors for sex, as well as has a fair and balanced approach. So that's what I'm proposing. Those are the committee amendments. Questions or comments from committee members? Assembly Member Witt.
Mr. Chair, I'll second your motion and the amendments, and I want to thank the Honorable Brina. She has been a huge champion for this issue that has long been overdue and has gone on for more years and has ruined so many lives. And when you came to my office, just exactly what we talked about is the fact that the age was taken out, it was amended out. Talked about how we wanted to make sure we protected those that were minors, right? Because they were taken out and amended out continue to be solicited that are human trafficked and victims of human trafficking. And I do believe these committee amendments do address that, and they do bring them back into the circle, they do bring them back into the conversation, and that this will protect them and include them in what your bill is trying to address that was taken out. So, Mr. Chair, I would second your motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the bill with the proposed committee amendments. Do we have further questions or comments for committee members? Seeing none, back to you on closing.
Mr. Chair, I thank you for meeting with me last night at 5:30. I know we missed several opportunities over the last month and a half to meet, and some appointments that couldn't be kept, but I appreciate you at least meeting with me last night to show me the amendments that you guys had come up with on a bill that I've worked really hard on. So is the coalition that is behind me has worked really hard on. Several of the situations where the amendment troubles me is that there are several situations where an individual, they do car sex because people don't have places to go. And there's a lot of times in these situations where the purchasers of these people will want multiple girls and give direction of what they want those multiple individuals to do. And not just girls, LGBT kids, they have, I don't want to say fetishes, but they have these things that they desire. Some like young black girls, some like LGBT specific kids. Some want to make sure that they have, different specifics about them regarding tightness and things like that. So I can tell you that when we read some of these conversations, like right here on Stockton Boulevard that's in the city of Sacramento, there's several situations where a 15, 16, 13, or even a 12-year-old will be with a 16 and 17-year-old. So with the committee's proposed amendments, law enforcement can actually get the buyer who secured this negotiation with these minors and tell the 16-year-old, go along, little girl or little boy, I can only take care of the 15 and below. So that's the frustration I have with this, and having to prove over and over again that they were actually bought, sold, trafficked, sexually exploited, and then to go after the original purchaser who started this whole sequence of events. They have to prove all of that happened first instead of stopping him in his tracks. In order to move the bill forward and address the issue like we have with the additional protections for the wobbler, it can be charged as a felony for 15-year-olds. I respectfully ask for my vote to hopefully continue this conversation because we're leaving 16 and 17-year-olds out in the cold, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify this. With these amendments, it does address these 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds because it's anybody under the age of 18.
So just for clarity, the amendment reads, and I first want to say I honor you. You have met in good faith, negotiated in good faith. You've shared your stories of what you've seen on the street, which is the same thing I have seen, and it's heart-wrenching, especially for a mom and a grandma. The amendment itself that the committee is proposing is including the wobbler for 15 and below. Please correct me, Chair, if I'm wrong. It keeps the wobbler for 15 years old and below, not under 15, but 15 and below. Okay. So they can be charged with a felony, and it still can be brought down to a misdemeanor. That's the amendment. Under the 16 and 17-year-olds, that amendment says if the solicited minor, 16 years old or age at the time of the offense, or the person solicited is under the age of 18 years old at the offense, the victim of human trafficking under section 236.1, it's included, and it says that it allows the imprisonment in county jail, $10,000 fine. So that they have to prove, the 16 and 17-year-old have to prove they're a trafficked victim. If you talk to Ms. Martin, who is here, you have girls that are trafficked, they escape the trafficker, go out on the street on their own for 2 weeks, and then they go back and get trafficked again. They have to prove they are trafficked, so they have to be bought, sold, the negotiation takes place, they have to be sexually exploited and go after the trafficker, who then can go after the person who started this whole nonsense. That's what this amendment does. I just want them all inclusive. A 17-year-old is a 16-year-old is a 15-year-old. I want it all inclusive. But we can't get there, and I'm trying to get there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the close. And I support this bill. It's further than what you were at a month ago in the state senate, which is further than we are in state law. Wasn't where you were at when you introduced the bill in January. I'll give you that, because you, like a lawmaker, shoot for the stars, and that's your job, is to go as far as you can.
It shouldn't be that difficult.
And this is the process that we're in. We have a deliberative process and go back and forth. So we heard the call from you and others that we're not adequately addressing 16 and 17-year-olds, and I concur that was applied. I think we came up with a good solution here, and we don't want to re-victimize the victims. And again, it's not up to them to prove that they were trafficked, it's up to the prosecution. If they don't want to, and as a 16 or 17-year-old, they can go back and use the existing law and prosecute that as just under the misdemeanor clause. So there's 2 statutes in the books that would be operable for law enforcement and district attorneys. With that, we have a motion.
Just for clarification, does the misdemeanor
We have a
clause say
motion.
no jail time?
We have a motion and a second. We had a close. I can support the bill. Please call the roll. Thank you.
On SB 1414 by Senator Grove, the motion is do pass as amended with the chair's committee amendments. McCarty.
Aye.
Excuse me. This bill is going to appropriations. McCarty.
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Alanis.
Aye.
Alanis, aye. Lackey. Lackey, aye. Wynn. Wynn, aye. Reyes. Reyes, aye. Team. Wilson. Sever. Sever, aye. That measure passes.
That measure passes. Next measure, Senator
Thank you,
Alvarado
Mr.
Gill.